Alright, with almost any project, and this one's no exception, I make photos along the way so that I can at least compare them and see what I don't like and what I like and what I think works and what I don't think works. And as soon as I saw this project, I knew that it was going to take a little bit of effort to see what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. So I did make photos along the way, and I wanted you to at least have those so that you would have the same considerations I had with regard to the project and make the same sort of decisions that I had to. And whether you arrive at that same point, I don't know. I chose what I felt was the best alternative of what I developed to that point. And this is a little progression of how I went through this. First, I began with a hip roof. One, in order to keep from attaching to the brick with any kind of thing where they kind of don't like that. And this was one way to do that. But in terms of the columns, I started with these 6-inch columns down at the bottom here, 4 6-inch columns symmetrically placed. But that left this kind of empty space back here, so I added a 5th. And then I pulled the hip roof out some, began to ignore any kind of headache they would give us about attaching here. I don't think it will be. And then added a couple more columns at the front for a total of 7. And when I started looking at 8-inch columns, I didn't end up showing any fluted columns, but you may want me to show you a look at that since we ended up drawing plans for a 2-column plan. But I'm assuming that this roof carries a lot of water and this one carries none really, but I would think this is how they're going to have to do this here. So the 6-inch column plan, one of the things that I didn't like about it was the way this beam had to just travel back, and there's no other logical way to do it. Travel back to the wall there. And so this surface of this beam is against the brick there. And maybe that's probably the best that can be done with it. And on this side, it dies into the brick. And I don't know if these 6-inch columns might look a little weak anyway for that. But I added, the 5th back there and then the other 2 out here. I felt like the 6-inch plan, this was the best way to do it. One of the best things I like about the 6-inch plan was that the base of this stays back behind this piece of brick here. And I don't think this is as noticeable as some of the stuff down here. So I started with putting these columns placed according to where the porch slab was. And you can see that here, how this goes back in interfaces without the columns. And so then the next thing to consider was 8-inch columns instead of 6-inch columns. And that brought that beam in like that beam covering in like this from that. So ultimately I moved it in even a little further just to get some sort of a little bit more balance through here. And that's what I ended up drawing on your plans for now, is this 8-inch beam finish like this. And at first I didn't think these 4 8-inch columns were too bad, but on reconsideration it just seems a bit too much. So I reverted away from that to a 2-column plan with the 8-inch. Remember, this is the only structure through here. All this stuff back here, none of this is carrying. There's no beams running back here. This is just plywood box beams. So everything beyond this is just decorative. That, I think, does what hopefully you're looking to do, really with the least cost. And here you can see where this 8-inch column back here bothered me anyway. And I know that it's visually, they are, regardless of these ones here or this one here, they're in front of this address plate in an elevation kind of view. And I said, just the 5 looks a bit spindly to me. This final move was just going to a straight shed roof here, and the framing on this is so simple it's crazy. So this could all just be pre-cut and basically assembled. And while these metal roof panels can be done pretty inexpensively, and you can just order them cut to length according to what you have up there, no one's going to see that except from those bedrooms. I don't know if the costs are equal or not, but obviously you could put rubber membrane on that. And hopefully this doesn't confuse anything, but here will be some views from the street level of these various alternatives. First there was that existing, and then we added 4 6-inch columns to it. Then we added 3 more, 1, 2, and this one at the back for 7, which I thought looked okay and was okay, but there's just so much material wrapped up in a lot of unnecessary things there. And then we go to 8-inch plan, 8-inch columns, and this is with 5, which, you know, it's just, I don't think it was a competitor. And this is with the 4, but again, the crowding of this address plate. And so that is what I drew the plans for, is the one with the 2 8-inch out at the front end. And I don't know if they'll just run that downspout like that against the wall. There would be some sort of transition here to get it flat against that wall, or whether they'll do it like this. Maybe possibly it comes out on the column like this, and maybe that happens on both sides, although that you already have both of these drain towers back at the back. So more likely it's something like that. Finally, a look at these from this side only, starting from the one that I drew the plans for. And by the way, these have been reduced to about 7.5 now, since a lot of the column wraps are 7.5. So these have been reduced to 7.5. If you buy those pre-built columns from HB&G or Turncraft or a place like that, then they're probably going to be a full 8-inch shaft. And the fluted columns, moving both spouts to the front, and then just the also rans. Thank you. It's been fun.